Hello, and welcome to the Grand Cinema Hotel, a podcast hosted by three friends who love cinema. I'm Nathan, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Gus and Alvaro. Tonight, you'll be staying in Room 119, Batman, the 1989 superhero classic directed by Tim Burton. So go ahead, get comfortable, and throw on that Do Not Disturb sign as we rid Gotham of crime with Batman.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Tell me something, my friend. You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?
What is going on, all you Bat fans? Thanks for checking back in the Grand Cinema Hotel. We are back with our first superhero episode. In honor of the new Batman movie, we decided to, get a little hype over Batman. So here we are with one of the OG movies, 1989's Batman. How do you guys feel about this movie?
Ro, you want to go first?
Sure, yeah. I can't remember the first time I saw this movie, but we had talked about this, obviously, all three of us, a little before the podcast. But I think I really like this movie because it's really true to, like, the comic book story of it. And then I think Tim Burton's style helps elevate it to, like, more than comic book movies were before that. Mm-hmm. So I think I really appreciate the artistic vision this has, and I enjoy it for that.
Hell yeah.
Nice. I don't really remember the first time I've seen this either. This is one of those movies that I feel is just kind of similar to, like, Indiana Jones, where it's in your bubble before you even really know it. Mm-hmm. Like, you know that Jack Nicholson is the Joker. It's just, like, such an iconic character that even if you haven't seen the movie, you're aware of it.
Yeah.
I really couldn't pin down the first time I've seen this, but I watched it yesterday for the first time in probably 5 years, I would say, and I really, really enjoyed this. Like, I'll start off with, I guess, kind of a ranking. I think this is probably the second best Batman movie of all of them.
Behind which one would you say?
I think The Dark Knight is just it's a consensus. I mean, it's not just, it's everyone's opinion, obviously, but there's stuff in there that's, like, so good that even if I don't like the aesthetic of that movie as much as I do this one, I don't want to say elevated and treat it like this one's not, but I just think The Dark Knight has that hold.
Would you say, is it because, like, in the scope of, like, cinema, The Dark Knight does, like, it's a better cinematic story in terms of, like, but this Batman is, like, a better Batman story?
I think this one is more artistic overall, and, like, the aesthetic and the style and the tone. I think
it's colorful too.
That's more up my alley than something like The Dark Knight. Like, it's not. I'm not trying to be, like, a revisionist here, but I kind of think that, like, The Dark Knight is not as entertaining to look at.
I can see that.
You know what I mean? It's just like the Gotham in '89 is fantastic.
It's crazy.
It's amazing set design and production design. It looks like concept art, and I know, Nate, you're really big on when a film looks like concept art brought to life. The Gotham in the Dark Knight trilogy is Pittsburgh and Chicago.
Let's ride the L. It's like, all right.
Yeah. It's just not as cool. I mean, it's a lot more tactical and, like, I would say, like, militaristic, you know what I mean? And, like, the themes of the Dark Knight series have a lot to do with, like, the times that we were living in under like Bush and Obama, with, like, the whole Homeland Security and, like, spying on people and stuff like that. I know it sounds kind of weird, but it's more like Jason Bourne than it is like Batman.
It is.
You get me?
It's totally different. Like, I would totally agree with you because, like, I mean, like, I haven't seen this movie. Honestly, I don't think I'd seen this movie in, like, 8 years. Like, I haven't seen this one in a long time.
Yeah.
So watching it was really cool. But I think that you're right because watching the '89 Batman, like what we were talking about, the sets are incredible. Like the really visuals and everything are spectacular. But I think maybe where the story kind of lacks is in the story. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, and I think that's what the Dark Knight really does well, is it gets you super invested in these characters, and it's very high stakes, and it gets your anxiety going. Whereas this one, it's more of like a spectacle and carried by the actors than you're watching to, like, oh, what is going to happen? Like, it's more of like a fun movie, I feel like. Does that make sense?
The Dark Knight is like a white knuckle movie.
Exactly.
Where you're like, oh, shit.
Like,
you're holding on to your seat
yeah.
the whole time, like, what's going to happen? And, like, that intro in The Dark Knight is like
that's crazy.
That's top tier intro of all time. I don't think you can not see the similarities to like Michael Mann's work in The Dark Knight, and that's probably another reason why it's so good is because it's kind of similar to like Heat in some ways. And this 89 one is very, well, I already said artistic, but it just feels like an artist put their hands on it. You know what I mean? And it's somebody's vision. Whereas I always felt like Christopher Nolan was like ashamed of making Batman movies, like kind of seeing it like he was selling out and was like, okay, well, I'm going to take this very few things I like about Batman, which is this costumed vigilante and, you know, his villains, and put that in a real world
and make an action
thriller. Or yeah, I guess that's a pretty good way of like putting it in a genre. And this 89 one is more fantasy than anything else.
Like, I feel like this is almost like a fantasy noir kind of.
Yeah,
you know
it feels
what I mean?
it feels like an alternate reality more than it does like that this could actually happen.
Exactly.
I think what I really like about this one is it feels like it's I didn't look into this like specifics too much into how it was made before this episode, but it reminds me a lot like if you were to make the movie in like backlot in like the Hollywood, like, so there's sets and there's even like a scene that I was able to notice, like, oh, those are miniatures. Like there's so many little things that this movie seems like it could have been made in the 50s, and it has that like feeling to it, even like it could be made, like in the backlot. And I think because this movie is so successful, and then you don't have, well, maybe Michael Keaton at that time, was he very successful?
Yeah, he was. He had just come off of doing like Beetlejuice, but he was a comedic actor at the time. So just like with every Batman, it was controversial when he was cast because he was a comedian. So people were like, why are you having a comedian do this when Batman is supposed to be like dark and serious? And there was just a lot of controversy. Fandom has always been crazy, apparently. The internet just wasn't there to shit on it. You know what I mean?
But people always lose their minds about
the same
everything.
way people are upset that Pattinson is cast as Batman. It's like it's just been going on forever.
Chance, bro.
Yeah.
But what I was gonna say, due to the success that comes from this movie, you are able to get The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
That where the studio is invested in wanting to put like, let's put millions and millions of dollars into this, and let's get Christopher Nolan to make like a one that's worthy to be like getting awards and stuff like that because of how good this one is, I think.
Yeah, this movie really did set the precedent for all the future Batmans, I feel.
And like comic book movies, honestly.
Yeah, like this, like it really did kind of change the way that comic books and superheroes were taken in regards by the public in cinema. And like I feel like without this movie you probably don't get the Batman animated series. Like you can just tell like a lot of that stuff is really modeled after Tim Burton's vision of Gotham, and how not even just in movies and in the shows, but how it influenced all the further comics after it too, you know? So
yeah, this one is
very influential.
I don't want to say I like it more, but I think they're equally as good. Like The Dark Knight and Batman 89.
I think that you can compare them without, doing a disservice to the other. Like,
well, yeah, you don't have to shit on one to like the other.
Yeah, they're totally different. They're totally different versions and visions of Batman, but I think they both work in their own ways. So.
I was telling Ro that I think Batman is, like, of all the fictional characters that we have in the world who have had multiple movies made about them, that Batman has the most range. Mm-hmm. Like, he really is a flexible, pliable character that you can throw into any setting and it works. So, yeah, maybe you don't like the Bat Nipples and Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy and stuff like that, but it's not like there isn't a precedent for that stuff. Right. You know what I mean? In the comics. Right. And Ro was saying, like, the canon of Batman comics is so deep that you can pull Lego Batman or Adam West Batman or the Christopher Nolan Batman, and it's all valid. You can't be like, no, this is not Batman, because he's been so many different things over time.
Which is crazy, because I feel like you don't really get that with a lot of others, the other superheroes. You know what I mean?
like Superman,
Spider-Man, like it's basically the same thing over and over again.
Is like the only equal that I feel that you could talk about that has so much like renditions of him, but even Spider-Man seems to be very like more.
There's a set idea.
Yeah.
Of who Spider-Man is.
It's like stuck in
but
place.
Like Batman, like we were talking about, like due to the comic books being so like older, there's some of like, yes, the original, he's just a detective. So if you want to go noir, let's go noir. But then there's all the colorful stuff and all the different, you have all those different authors in that comic book era that really had different ways of like during the hippie era and stuff like that. They got really creative with those comics. And then you're able to put that on screen. And I feel like this movie is like the first one where you get someone like Tim Burton, and I think like Danny Elfman plays a big role in this movie. Just
it's vital.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like vital. And I just think they're respected at the time, so that you finally get somebody that like, let's do this right, let's do this vision, but they still keep the campiness of what it is overall, like what Batman truly is a comic book.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to just compare the I don't want the whole podcast. I don't want to just compare Christopher Nolan. And
we'll drop it
Burton.
right now. Yeah,
but I do. It's just that I have a few more things to say about it. Is that Tim Burton was? I was reading some behind the scenes stuff that Tim Burton was not really a comic book person. He said he thinks it's because he's dyslexic that comic books were always hard for him to read because of the panels. But that Batman was just such an intriguing like figure to him, and like it's such a recognizable image that he couldn't help but do it. He was like, okay, like I can make this work. Like the whole like him being like the gothic stuff and like some of the campiness and like it taking place at night, that he was just like, this is like the kind of stuff I want to be doing. And I know I've just done like Beetlejuice and Pee-wee and stuff like that. So he was also a controversial pick at the time to make the movie, but it doesn't feel like someone who didn't like comic books. You know what I mean?
It really feels like he leaned into it.
It's a perfect marriage.
Right. Yeah,
I think so. I mean, even though Christopher Nolan elevated Batman, I think that Tim Burton is probably the best fit for Batman.
I can see that.
Of what we've had so far. And I mean, we can bring up that the reason we're doing this episode is because of the Batman coming out next week, and we had kind of thought about trying to do all of the Batman movies.
It would have been a mess.
I mean, if we include the animated ones, there's 44, so it's not like we would have had time to do this.
44 movies in a week. Let's go. Oh my god.
But I do think that like the Dark Knight trilogy and these first two Batman movies are kind of the lexicon of how people see Batman, you know? Mm-hmm. I think like Batman Forever and Batman and Robin is where people kind of tapped out, and it was like, okay, we've been there, done that. We need to let this rest. But yeah, I just think I was telling Ro, there's no bad Batman in my opinion.
Every Batman movie that I've ever seen, there's at least an aspect of it that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
Like, I love Mr. Freeze and those Batmans. Like, I really do. Like, I don't know.
I mean, I do think it's cool, too, that we got Robin in those two movies, and we still haven't had a Robin since then. We got the tease at the end of The Dark Knight with
whatever the fuck that was about.
Was it The Dark Knight, or was it the third one?
It was
The
the
Dark
third
Knight
one.
Rises.
Dark Knight
where
Rises.
like Joseph Gordon-Levitt is supposed to be Robin, and like that's okay.
I mean, it's cool, I guess, but, you know, he didn't really do anything
Robin
with it.
has not been done right yet, is what I would say. Except for the animated series.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could even argue that like Kevin Conroy is your Batman, you know, like if you want to go that route of the argument of like, who's your Batman, you know, like I feel like for the most part it's always been, and Neighbors, the movie
Hamill.
joked about it, was that, is your Batman Michael Keaton or is your Batman Christian Bale? And I feel like for us 90s kids, it's Kevin Conroy.
Yeah.
Because the Batman, the animated series, is phenomenal. Like one of the best cartoons ever
I was
made.
gonna say, one of the best animated pieces ever.
And honestly, every time somebody gets casted and before when I knew they were gonna do it the traditional way, that's who I compare it to. And the Joker, same thing with Mark Hamill. But like, well, it's like, can you do Mark Hamill's laugh? Is it close to Mark Hamill's laugh, or the close to the like campiness of Mark Hamill's Joker in those animated? And that's crazy because for us 90 kids, that's like, that happened then, but every time before this, it was just the comic books that didn't exist. To me, that's almost hard to get around because I always come and compare it to that.
Can we talk about the video games for a hot second?
Yeah.
Oh, can we?
Because those Arkham games
Holy
are
shit.
arguably the best Batman content to exist.
So yeah, they're incredible.
Like it's hard to compare a movie and a video game, but it's like that Arkham series I might take even over the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Because those are so much fun.
So much fun.
Let's talk about Batfleck for 1 second.
All right. We can talk about the warehouse scene.
Yes, because I do want to talk about the warehouse scene. I do think that that's probably the most effective fighting scene we've seen.
Which reminds me a lot
Batman.
of the video games,
That's
too.
true.
Like the crazy combos and all that shit.
That's true.
Because in this 89 one, the fighting is an afterthought, more or less. It's very comical, and
It's
like the
not-
one punch and the guy's knocked out.
It's almost like not an action movie. Like there is action in it, but it's like a consequence of the things that are happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than the main focus.
Recently, I showed you guys a video of Steven Seagal very slowly demonstrating like Aikido, right, and like taking people out with like one touch. And that's
so
kind of
good.
how I pictured like
This movie?
this Batman.
Yeah.
Like it's more of like like I use my force palm to push you and you're done.
So true.
That's so true.
And Yeah, like the Christian Bale one is very tactical, and I can't really remember the Val Kilmer and George Clooney one too well.
I don't really remember him.
But I'm so excited for this new Batman, like the way that he's going to fight. And I do think Batfleck, it's a disservice that he never got his own movie because he has some effective fighting scenes. And it's gruesome, and it's very much like the video game, like you said.
Yeah.
He does.
It's the only like melee type of fighting we've ever seen Batman do and like use his surroundings. Like we were watching the warehouse scene, like when he crushes the dude's head with the crate.
yeah, like
what the fuck?
Or he uses the dude's gun to break his arm and stuff like that. It's like, dude, what?
That stuff is awesome.
I also think it's really funny because a lot of people were pissed off with that portrayal of Batman because he kills people and shit. Well, so does Michael Keaton. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, yeah.
there's
Sometimes
a lot of murder in
noticed
this
that
shit too. And he even said he says stuff about it, which I think is interesting.
Batman
so.
always kills inadvertently. Like someone's gonna die.
Yeah, there's no
and
way.
maybe it's not directly by his hands, but it's by the situations that are set up by him even existing. You know what I mean? Like the Joker is kaputs in '89.
Yeah, dude,
you know
like,
what
for
I mean?
real.
And how, you know what? It's kind of like slipping my mind right now. But how does it end in The Dark Knight? Like the Joker doesn't die, right?
I don't even remember what. I don't remember, honestly.
No, right? Because I had always heard that the original plot for The Dark Knight Rises was going to be the Joker like paying for his crimes.
Oh, they
like
lock him
doing a
up.
court case.
They
do
take
lock
him to
up?
Arkham.
Oh, they do take him to Arkham, huh?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I was really trying to
the
think
Joker
about
needs to
that.
die.
Does the Joker need to die? I
No,
mean,
because then you get the video game ending and then you cry when the Joker dies. And you're like, why am I crying?
true.
You're right.
Very true.
That's so funny.
This is kind of turning into a overall Batman episode, but I don't really mind it.
Yeah.
I do have a lot to say about the '89 one, but
Exactly.
Batman is just so rad. Like I do think that he's probably
I mean,
one of my favorite superheroes. I don't think that's controversial for anyone to say.
I would probably say that he's mine, and then after that, maybe Spider-Man, like those two up there. But I just always thought, like, especially growing up, like Batman's fucking cool because he's a person. He doesn't have superpowers. Like, yeah, I mean, he's rich, obviously, but like
His superpowers is his billions.
it's money, yeah. Like, honestly, but it's just like, in your head as a kid growing up, you're like, I could, like, this could be me. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
There's everything absorbed like as a kid that like I could take from Batman. Dude, like I love Batman Beyond still. Like every time I think about like that's such a cool concept. I wish they'd do that movie. Where was I gonna go next? Like, oh, the Justice League animated series.
yeah.
Like that was so cool. And it's like obviously even then there's so many scenes that we still see on the internet where it's like Batman's lines are so much cooler than the rest. It's because he's allowed to be cool. Like he's allowed to not be part of a team when he doesn't want to be.
What about the comic book series Batman and Ninja Turtles?
Yeah, see, like
I
even,
do
like,
own
the
that. That's
crossovers,
really fun.
Like
That's it.
those crossovers that they've done too. It's
So he's not the most serious character, even though people try to portray him that way.
But he can be.
sometimes. He can be, yes, but he also can eat pizza with the Ninja Turtles in the Batcave, and that's still Batman. There is
tight.
no wrong or right Batman, that's for sure. Do you guys want to get into the movie a little
I
bit
do,
more?
yeah. Let's
Because
get
I know we
into it.
want to talk about Jack Nicholson.
yeah, exactly.
Do you want to maybe talk about one of your favorite Jack Nicholson moments in this film?
I mean, I have so many of them, but I don't even know.
I could start if you want.
Yeah, go start.
I texted this to Ro last night or this morning. I can't remember. Is that I absolutely love the Joker's gang in this movie, like his henchmen. I need one of those leather jackets with the Joker
With the
face
Joker
patch,
face on it.
or the helicopter with the Joker face on it, or the goons wearing the snapbacks.
Yeah.
And like one thing I do love about this Joker is that he's very persistent on the fact that he's an artist, which I do think is
a homicidal artist.
that is so Tim Burton. You know what I mean? Like, when they're looking at his file, like Bruce Wayne gets his hands on the Joker's case file, and it's like he has an aptitude in like chemistry,
art and something
History.
else.
history,
Yeah.
and art. And
he's like
it's
really renowned, which I think is. I was gonna comment on that later, but it's there's even something that Tim Burton attempts to give the Joker character background, which we know he doesn't have. So, or like yes he does, yes he doesn't. But like it's just funny that in this rendition he makes him, like you said, artistic. I thought that was funny, and then you brought up the scene too where he's like, no, not that one. I like that
Oh
one.
yeah,
When they're
the
paint on
amazing
the-
scene when they're dancing in the art gallery and they're destroying all the art, and he puts his cane up. He's like, not that one.
That is like
I kinda like that
That's
one.
yeah, exactly. Like that scene. Like that's what I really like about this Joker is like. I mean, he really is super versatile. But what like I feel like we don't get, like we're talking about the Dark Knight. I know I'm comparing it again.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like that Joker is very like dark, and he's like yeah, he like laughs and stuff, but I don't know. He's
It's
like
psychotic.
sadistic, right?
Psychotic, yeah.
Whereas Jack Nicholson, like you get the scene where they're bumping prints and they're throwing art all over the wall, like paint all over the art, and it's like it's funny. Like like who the fuck does this? Like, you know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
He's almost like he doesn't take himself seriously, and he has fun with things, and then he flips the switch. You know what I mean? So,
But going back to like the question they said favorite scene, just to like kind of compare to what we're talking about, like my favorite scene I think is actually one of the more serious scenes with him is when he gets revealed as the Joker. And so like when he's like, I did the best I could. You should have seen the nerd damage. And he looks into the mirror and he smashes it. And then he walks away and he does the laugh.
Yeah.
And just like the way that the camera tracks and he goes up the stairs, like that whole sequence, I was like, this is like what makes the movie really good to me. Like in terms of, you can't just tell me it's this campiness.
Yeah.
And it's like that's I think my favorite.
That's a
scene.
phenomenal
he
scene.
smashes a light on the wall and it just swings like back and forth.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's so good.
That is good. I also like the scene following it where he like shoots and kills
That's a good scene.
Carl
too.
Grissom, Boss Grissom or whatever, and he takes over. I like the idea of the Joker being not like this lone agent, but controlling his own, like the more mobster type of Joker, which Jared Leto attempted. And say what you will about that, I guess.
Yeah.
We live in a society.
That should be the soundbite for the beginning of this.
No, thank you. I will use my veto powers on that one.
I really, I honestly think that my favorite scene with the Joker in this movie is probably when he uses his little hand buzzer on the dude when he has a
That's
meeting
so
with all the
good.
crime families, and he's like, all you have to do is shake my hand and we can walk away, and then it's just so good, and the way that he starts singing and laughing about it, and he starts playing with his torch body at the end, like, damn, bro.
Is Jack Nicholson the best Joker?
I'm gonna say yes.
Bro?
So it's like 1A, 1B to me.
Yeah, I mean, like,
They're
yeah.
so they're so
Well,
like,
between who? Between
him and,
Heath Ledger or between Joaquin Phoenix?
Heath Ledger. But then Joaquin Phoenix is just like whatever. If they're both 1 and 2, then Joaquin Phoenix is a close third. But I do think Heath Ledger is just like what we're talking about, more realistic, sadistic type. Like, yeah, I would believe like that guy would put like is gonna make you choose between a bomb or like a boat with bombs in it, you know. And but this one is like so accurate to what you were talking about, like our 90s comic book, what we think it is. Like him, yes, he's a mobster, but he's just so funny at the same time too. And he wears the purple outfit, and he is just the person that we were talking about, Indiana Jones too. Like, and he still just gets away with stuff because he's that smart too.
It's a hard one for me. I really don't know, because I do think that all three of those performances between Joaquin Phoenix, Heath Ledger, and Jack Nicholson are all bringing their own version of it that is effective no matter how you kind of slice it. No matter how you batarang it.
The other thing though too is I think that the three actors are all three of them are really good, you know. It's
Yeah.
not just like we're talking about, oh, one of them is a little lower. Like I think all three of those actors are very renowned.
They're all studs, yeah. They are some of the best.
Yeah, Jack Nicholson's having so much fun with it though,
That's-
which is like
Yep.
something I do appreciate. From what I mean, I've talked about it on the pod before. Is like when something is good and it's fun is like, that's really hard to beat.
It is.
because Heath Ledger's Joker is fun in a different way. It's
Yeah.
like in a wrong way. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? Where like you shouldn't be rooting for this guy at all, but you kind of want to see him beat Batman. You
Yeah.
know, and I feel like in this version you don't.
No.
You're like, okay, no, Batman needs to get rid of this guy. And I think what makes him so effective is like the poison gas, which is such a Joker thing.
It is.
And the Joker kind of felt like more like a terrorist in the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
But in this one, he does just feel like a super villain. Like this dude is mass poisoning people.
Yeah,
you
like,
know.
yeah, he's putting poison in your shampoo.
The laughing gas.
Yeah.
The Joker gas, which is so, it's just so much fun. Like the parade scene where he's handing out like 20 mil and then
Yeah.
like the laughing gas, and he's like, I'm gonna relieve you guys of your useless
Oh
lives.
my god.
He's like, I'm here giving you money, and where's the bat?
Yeah. I looked out for you, and you wonder who the villain really is.
It's funny because one thing I'm remembering is very crucial about the Joker in the cinematic form, at least, is that he has to at least make one appearance on TV.
Yeah, that's funny.
The commercial in this one is so much fun. Like the brand X versus Joker brand.
That's so
Yeah,
good.
he's chilling on the beach. It's so Beetlejuice.
What do the girls keep saying? They're like, Joker's got, or I forget what they say, but they keep saying this thing over and over, which I think is so funny. But that commercial's so good.
And on Batman the Animated Series, he's on TV all the time.
time.
Like, and I just love that idea of like, because he's a Joker and he's like an entertainer or whatever, is that he would be on TV because he's kind of a comedian. You know?
One of my favorite parts is when he's on TV in this movie, and they have like a split screen with whoever he's talking to, and I forget, and he just pushes the screen away.
Yeah, that's a good piece of editing right there. He's like, nope, no more of that. Bye bye.
I really like that.
So good.
I really think that. I mean, this movie is a testament to how good Jack Nicholson is, because I really feel like he almost takes over this movie. Like, I feel like in like how I see this movie is this is like the Joker's movie, and I feel like Michael Keaton almost takes a back seat to him. But how do you guys feel? How do you guys feel about Michael Keaton as Batman?
I like it, but it's also not. I told Ro, I was like, I feel like he's the most beta of all the Batman.
That's how I feel too.
Like not a strong fighter.
Right.
I don't want a short king as my Batman.
Right.
No offense.
Exactly.
No offense.
Not Batman.
Where's my linebacker at? But he's just almost like. I mean, he's not bad. Like, I don't think he does a bad job, but he doesn't have really good charisma to me. Like, he's not super charming. He's not ripped. Like, it's just a fact. Which Batman doesn't have to be ripped, but he just doesn't seem like a person that's really going to come and, like, save me. You know what I mean? Like, does that make sense?
I think the only reason I do like him is a bias to the story, and because I do like Michael Keaton outside of Batman.
I do too.
A short Batman
his hairline's
with a fro?
whack too. You know what I mean? Like
His hairline is
Batman's
whack.
gotta have a good hairline, bro.
There's so many scenes where he just looks like he's lost, and I think it's like his way of, at that time, maybe Michael Keaton's way of acting like a millionaire would, who has nobody, who truly feels alone. But it just sometimes just feels kind of weird.
I think it's an early attempt at a type of act or a type of character we see now, which is like whether it be like The Social Network or like Mark Rylance and Don't Look Up, where they try to do this like alienating billionaire who doesn't necessarily understand people.
It comes off as like indifference, like he's indifferent about things.
Very
you know what I
much.
mean?
Yeah, exactly. Ro used a good word earlier when we were texting that it's like he's an alien kind of, and like I think what he's trying to do is the whole like, I'm not Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is my cover. Batman is who I really am.
I can see that.
But I do think it works because this movie is more shrouded in the mystery of Batman versus, once again, The Dark Knight, which is like, I'm going to walk you through the entire origin, how the suit is built, where the idea of the bat comes from, how he was trained. And this one just throws you into the world, which is what I'm thinking the new one is going to do a little bit too, where Matt Reeves already said this is more of like a Batman year 1, year 2, where he is already been doing this, but he's not established yet. And I mean, this one does that as well. I mean, they all, not all of them, but 89, Batman Begins, and the new one. Well, I guess I can't say about the new one yet because I haven't seen it, but I don't really like seeing the Batman origin story explained that much because it's so repetitive. Well, it's just like seeing Uncle Ben die
almost
again
like,
and again. You know what I mean?
We get it. We know by now.
Yeah. There's no one who doesn't know who Batman is.
Right. And I don't think the way that I view Michael Keaton in this movie and his portrayal of Bruce Wayne and Batman, like, I don't think it harms the movie in any way. No. Like, but it definitely just, like I said, it makes the Joker front and center for me.
Yep.
So
I agree.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that either.
I think it makes it work very well, honestly. Like, I like it a lot.
The only reason I do think that it was smart enough to think that, it was done like that on purpose is because when he's trying to tell Vicky Vale that he's Batman, it's so anxious of him to even get that sentence out. And he even goes like, as soon as she goes and checks the door, he like whispers it to himself. But it's even that, like, he's very anxious to talk to anybody who isn't Alfred. And I guess that's why you could act like, okay, they're making fun of him when they're in that room. Yeah. So maybe he feels like, oh, how do I like kind of maneuver this back into my position, even though he is a man of power. Yeah. So I'd like to think that Tim Burton and them worked on that like on purpose. And I like kind of like how you said, I think it's like a first attempt at a Mark Rylance type of character. And whether it hits for some people or it doesn't, I don't know. But I think, like you said, it doesn't deteriorate from the movie. For me, it just stagnates him and the Joker, Jack Nicholson.
I mean, let's be honest here. When you're watching a Batman movie, do you care more about Bruce Wayne or do you care more about Batman?
Batman.
Like, yeah. So I do think that it's definitely not the most effective, but it's not Val Kilmer and it's not George Clooney.
Right. And that's like what you're saying, bro. Like, honestly, like maybe that is what they tried to do. And maybe that's why the movie still does really work, is because that was a conscious decision, you know? Like,
I like to think so, because like at first you could just think that Michael Keaton doesn't hit, but there's a lot of cues on there that just seem to be like, well, he seems to be struggling with. We like you said, we don't know based off how many years he's been doing this. This could be year 2 Batman, you know? He still has a lot to deal with, like younger Batman. I don't know. But I just feel like the lore is so big there that Tim Burton, I'd like to think, thought about that.
Yeah.
I mean, comparing them again, but Christian Bale is like the Giga Chad Batman. You know what I mean? Like, he dates the entire Russian ballet.
Wakes up, does 1,000 push-ups.
Yeah, he's the American Psycho
Psycho.
Batman.
That's what I was gonna say. That's American Psycho as Batman, like Christian Bale.
Which is like, I
so
don't think he's
funny.
edgelord. Like, I think the new Batman is probably going to be the most edgelord Batman. we
it
have
looks like
for
it.
sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
And-
eat it.
I love that it's basically supposed to be like Gerard Way from My Chemical Romance as Batman.
Yeah,
which is like, because I
exactly.
was a My Chemical Romance kid, so that really hits for me that it's like going to be an emo goth Batman. But I just think they're also different. Like the Val Kilmer one, I didn't get time to watch it, but I was watching the trailers and some clips of Val Kilmer and George Clooney. The George Clooney one is like, I feel like he knew he was not in a good movie, or that he was not meant to be Batman.
Pat nipples.
Yeah, like, you know, I can't even guarantee if that's Bat Nipples, because it might be the Val Kilmer one.
It might
I'm
be.
not
I
sure.
really don't know.
But George Clooney, I've even seen interviews of him being like, I knew there wasn't going to be another one because this wasn't.
This just is. The Silver Fox.
Which still has effective stuff in it. I think they all have good stuff.
yeah, yeah.
But there's just like, it's Christian Bale and Michael Keaton, and everything else is in the middle. And we'll see about Robert Pattinson, which I think is going to be phenomenal.
I think it has an opportunity to be a really good installment in the franchise. Like, I think it'd be really fucking good.
And we had talked about before how like Batman Returns is arguably, I might like it more. I just haven't seen it recently.
Honestly, like thinking about it, like the 2 Tim Burton ones, I think Batman Returns might be.
Because of the Penguin, but it's
I don't know.
It's
I
not better
haven't-
than Jack Nicholson.
I
But
haven't seen that
story
movie in
is
a long time, and I hadn't seen this one in a long time. And rewatching this, I liked it more than I thought I had liked it. So I was like, okay, I don't know. But in my head, the Danny DeVito's Penguin is probably my favorite Batman villain of all time.
I like his story. I think not his character, the Penguin. I like the story of the Penguin depicted in that movie a lot.
I like that he's a monster.
yeah,
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
got webbed hands.
Bro, like when
and
he
lives underground.
when he dies and he's like all the black goos coming out of his mouth and the penguins like send him out on in his water, like it's so fucking good.
That's
Like,
cinema to me.
the penguins with the rocket
but-
launchers.
Yeah, that's what I was telling Nate. I was like, hold on. This is not campy or too much where, you know, Bat Nipples and Mr. Freeze is, what are you doing? But literal penguins wearing rocket launchers and having eye scouters like Dragon
Some
Ball Z
shit
is not
works.
too much.
Some shit
Whatever.
just works.
That shit's so good. No, because when we first talked about doing this, the hype of Batman, and we were gonna do all of them, that's the one that in my head when I think about the movies, the older ones, it's that movie. It's
And Michelle
Batman Returns.
Pfeiffer,
And Nikki, that's what I was
Catwoman,
gonna
that
say.
suit, that's iconic.
But they're not that their characters are better than Jack Nicholson's Joker though, because like what you said in the beginning, I like that. Like even when I was a kid, or I don't even remember, towards like, you know, in sixth grade, something like that, I was aware of this movie before I think I had even seen the entirety of the movie, and it's just because of how iconic Jack Nicholson's Joker is.
You know, I think the AMC that we go to has, you know how they have like the pictures of like iconic directors and characters on the walls? I think there is a Jack Nicholson Joker in there somewhere.
That'd be pretty cool.
Or there was at one point, because I always remember just how terrifying he looks.
Yeah.
And like when I was rewatching the movie this morning, my wife was sitting at the kitchen table and I was like, hey, come here for a second. And I was like, look at Jack Nicholson as the Joker, because she obviously loves him from like The Shining and stuff like that. And she was like, ew, that's terrifying.
Yeah,
and
it
like
is.
she didn't even watch the movie. She just saw one frame of him and she's like, that's nasty.
Yeah.
And like that is very scary.
And I don't know if it's like, I've read some of the comics. I'm not super big into the comics, but do you know, like in the comics, what I'm trying to say is, one of my favorite parts about this movie about the Joker is the fact that he paints on his face. Like he paints on like real, like skin tone
Like a skin
makeup.
tone, yeah.
Like his skin is white. Is that how it is in the comics?
Well, in the comic books, he doesn't paint his face. It is white.
Okay.
Yeah, like the origin is that when he fell into the acid, is that it
did turn
turned
white?
him white with
Gotcha.
the green hair and it made him psychotic
Right.
and all of that. That is a very that's like a weird touch.
It
you
is.
know what I mean?
You get some shots throughout the movie where he wipes his forehead when he has, and like the white comes through on it, and it's really good. Like it's creepy.
That is a weird touch that this movie has, because I don't think in the comics that was ever a thing where he like tried to fool somebody by painting himself. It was always in the comics because it's like for children or because it's not supposed to be that serious. He would just walk around with the hat. And he would always have his white skin, and nobody would kind of question it.
Yeah, he would wear the white hat super low.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't know if you remember from, like, the animated series that his eyes would be, like, just completely black.
Yeah.
And then, like, there would be, like, a glint right under the brim of the hat where you'd be like, what the hell? And then you'd see the big smile.
Yeah,
like, there would not,
so good.
it would hide the face very well, which is, like, it's just such a dumb superhero thing. Like, it's like a Raphael wearing the fucking trench coat in Ninja Turtles. You know what I mean? Like, who do you think you're fooling,
He's got
bud?
the stanzo on.
The shadow always follows them as part of the outfit.
Dude.
You know what I didn't like about this one though is where I do think The Dark Knight and some of the other films are much stronger is Commissioner Gordon.
Oh yeah.
And this one he's more of an afterthought.
Even Harvey Dent.
Yeah, that would have been cool if they had kept Billy D. Williams as Harvey
Yes.
Dent instead of Tommy Lee Jones. Because Tommy Lee Jones,
Yeah.
I don't know what he thinks he's doing in that one, but that is
I don't know.
Too fucking much. Like,
Yeah.
Too fucking much. Because, like, I mean, yeah, he's a great actor, and I just feel like he didn't get a really chance to shine in this movie. Like, the few scenes that he was in, I thought he was good, but, you know, he wasn't really given a lot.
I like how they portray the corruption in this movie as well. Like, Bruce Wayne is kind of facilitating it. Like,
Yeah, it's
he's having
interesting.
that gala at his house, and, like, Commissioner Gordon and Harvey Dent and all these important people are there gambling. You know what I mean? And then, like, Detective Eckhart, who works for, well, I guess the Joker, because he kills Grissom, but I've always liked the idea of how Gordon was portrayed in The Dark Knight more than he was in this one.
That's what he's a really good character in those movies.
Well, they make him a character.
Yeah.
This one, he's more of just an afterthought, if anything. He doesn't really seem very helpful either.
No.
And what's crazy is in the comics, there's a rendition where he's almost like a father figure to him too. Because at one point they get really close in the comics, and that's an interesting take that hasn't been done yet.
Yeah.
But I did think Nolan
got the
attempted
closest
that.
to
Yeah,
it.
got the closest to it. And even the same thing with in Nolan's with Morgan Freeman's character. Everybody that was older.
There's no Lucius Fox
You're right.
in these
There's
movies.
not. That's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
But I was just gonna say in Nolan's movies, it feels like all of the older characters definitely are the father figures. As in this movie, it's only Alfred that definitely feels like is always looking out for him as the father.
You know how you said you could tell that some of these shots were miniatures? When I went to the Academy Museum, they have some of this stuff on display.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like they have some of the miniatures from Gotham. I think they have like some of the props that Danny DeVito used.
That's cool.
On his face. It's so creepy when it's just like in a glass box. You know what I mean? You're like, Jesus Christ, what am I looking at? Yeah. Yeah, man, this movie, I do think that it's such a blueprint for everything to come.
Yeah.
Like even the Nolan stuff, even the campy Val Kilmer and George Clooney stuff, even now, in this new one that's gonna come out, like you can just feel the roots of '89 going through it. It's just so influential. I don't feel like The Dark Knight has influenced as much stuff as Batman '89 did.
Probably not.
Yeah,
Probably not.
Even like all filmmaking, not just like the superhero genre, you know, because the stuff in this movie is just like the set designs. Oliver, you have his name, don't you? His name's like Anton.
Anton Chigurh.
No, he would be
Anton First.
He would be a successful Joker.
Anton First.
Anton First. I really do wonder if he worked with H.R. Geiger at some point, because it does remind me somewhat of Alien too, or like some of the concept art we saw for Jodorowsky's Dune, like with the big sculptures of like the giant faces or like the giant statues that are erected in Gotham. Mm-hmm. I do need more of that, and I'm hoping that the new Gotham is more in line with that than it is with looking like Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I like lean into the fantasy. Like Gotham is this big industrial city that does not exist, so make it look like something that does not exist.
That's a
like,
good term,
you know what I mean?
industrial.
Yeah.
It reminded me of the same way that why I like the original Blade Runner too. Like a lot of the scenes where it's the entrance, the zoom, the opening shot of Gotham in this movie,
the
first
cityscape with
like
the bridge.
It's and I'm looking at it right now. Like I said, I didn't look into it too much. I just kind of I wanted to talk more of like from the soul for this movie, just because in terms of how much I love Batman. But he won an Academy Award for like the set design on this movie for Gotham, and like in it well deserved. Like, I think that's what Gus. I don't know if you started with that, but that this Gotham feels like what I would imagine Gotham feels like, and it's not from Earth. It's not from.
It's
here.
an alternate reality.
It's the same place where Metropolis is. You know, it's a future that actually works out with people that are actually like good people, and that's why there's like the benevolent evil of people, and there's because like the people in Gotham, the regular people are just good traditional. I guess like what Nolan tried to depict Pittsburgh folk, hardworking folk. But then it's not realistic, you know? And so I think this movie, it takes those gothic elements from, I think, like Metropolis even. Like those stuff that really works.
Metropolis as in the film, right?
Yeah,
Because
Metropolis the film, yeah.
I don't want to confuse people and think they're talking about like Metropolis from Superman.
Right, yeah. No. But I when I did the other reference, I didn't mean Superman's Metropolis, but in terms of film reference, is just, I feel like a lot of, it takes even from Metropolis, which is a 29 movie?
Yeah, or somewhere in the 30s or something. Like it's old as fuck.
But it just the sets we were talking about, like old Hollywood, like they just work so well in this film.
I don't want to throw this term around loosely, but it does feel almost like a little inspired by like German expressionism. That's
exactly what I was going to say.
Because of the shadows and the lighting and just the overall like gothic element.
It reminds me of. So it kind of what reminded me of Macbeth, the new Macbeth, is like the fact that some of these buildings are so big and like the city goes on for so long that it doesn't fit in the screen. Yeah. So you're almost left to imagine like how tall are these buildings? Like where the fuck are we really? Like it gives you this real sense of like claustrophobia and that there really is nothing but the concrete around you. And it's so good. Like that first shot, like you get the shot from the cityscape where it has like Gotham City below it. And then you get like the pan down of like the entire city. And it's like, what the fuck is this? It almost reminded me of like that street in Las Vegas that has like the screen over the top of it. Like it just looks like it goes on for forever.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
So good.
You know when I could tell it was a miniature, that they were using miniatures, was in that very first opening sequence where the tourist couple's like getting mugged and you see Batman standing on top of the buildings, but
that
it's
CGI
shot from above.
Bad. That CGI
it's
is
shot from
really
above.
bad.
I like you could just tell that that's a miniature, obviously, because I don't know why they couldn't do it. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the specifications are of like an old movie like that, because I do like in the Dark Knight series is like him standing on the rooftops.
Yeah, he's watching his city. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I feel like, I don't know, that CGI was super bad, and when it started, I was almost like, oh no, like what's gonna happen to this movie? And then it didn't. So I was like, thank God. But yeah, there's so many. I didn't remember. Like I didn't know what they were gonna. But this movie's so practical. Like it's so well done.
I do think if you are gonna be like I'm only here for the realistic depiction of like Batman, the dark gritty stuff. That no, this probably will not work for you. But I mean, I don't care that I can see the black wires when Batman's flying.
I mean, like,
it works for me. I like it.
It's fun. Like, and I think it's really interesting that like some people are like, this is not the most dark or edgy Batman. But when it came out, this was the darkest depiction of like a superhero or Batman or anything that ever been done before.
Batman Returns is even darker, right?
Yeah.
I've heard people say like that's like the darkest one.
And that's really why I think it stands out to me. Yeah. It's like that one starts to dive into more with. Were you talking about influence that these Batman movies have?
Look at the fucking Penguin. Like, you know what I mean? Like, in Michelle Pfeiffer's, like, her suit, like, all stitched together like that, it's a little bit
Even
different.
she's a little pale.
Yeah.
Like, her character is But I was going to say.
Doesn't she technically die? Or she kind of dies? Yeah. The cat's resurrected.
Yeah, and she comes back to life somehow.
I like that. I like that movie, too, man.
I'm thinking about watch that, like, soon.
But I think what I was going to say, though, is that darkness from that second one is, like, what this new one is taking from. Like, let's double on that, and then some of the comic books stories from later, like Frank Miller, all the ones that ended up getting Joke. Like those are movies.
I saw that this movie was heavily inspired by that, the Killing Joke.
It makes sense. Like that's I think why he leaned into the darkness kind of,
but to see. I see like this Batman is the reason why I kind of agree with Gus. I have hopes that it could be the best one in terms of what I'm looking for, is because it seems like it might dive into that character, or like. Already, we're getting a different Riddler than we obviously got with
Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey, you know. And again, like, what's the take from Jim Carrey away? That's what the character is, and it's first time the Riddler came out. It's this campy character who's just a guy who wears question marks all the time, kind of like Zodiac, right? But now we have the full circle where Matt Reeves is like, well, I took from the Zodiac, like to try to make somebody like that's how it would be realistic. And I just think, again, it comes back to the terms of how much influence Tim Burton's Batmans have.
Did you guys read about how this movie went through like production hell? Like
I did not.
10 years or something like that.
I did not.
So with the Adam West Batman in the 60s, once that popularity started waning and people were just losing interest in the idea of Batman, like overall, in the comics as well, they were going to do a Batman in outer space, which is like,
Lord have mercy.
I'm sure that would not be good.
No, it doesn't sound like it.
I do think I would like it
for the time,
because
but,
you know,
yeah.
like when the Machete movies had come out, there was always this teaser that there was going to be Machete in space, and I'm still butthurt that movie never came out.
I know exactly what you're talking
Give
about.
it to
that's
me. Yeah, so this movie just went through hell for a long time, and it's produced by someone we have talked about on this show before, John Peters.
Oh, really? Interesting. Interesting.
So John Peters, I don't know if I would say this is a passion project for him, but he tried for a very long time to get this script made. This script was rewritten like 8 to 10 times over the years. It was inspired by stuff like The Killing Joke later on, but when it was being conceived in the 70s, they didn't know which way to lean. Do we go with like the 1930s comics Batman, where that stuff is like he's a dark creature who stalks his prey in the night, or do we go with the Adam West campy hippy dippy Batman?
pow,
yeah,
yeah.
which is like that's fun too.
Yeah.
It works.
I do think they found a good middle ground
I think they did too.
because this there's very few quips in like the Nolan series, but in this one specifically,
She's funny.
yeah, there's a lot of funny moments in
funny.
this movie. I think one of the funniest ones is probably when the Joker's like, "Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?" And then Batman's like, "What?" He's like,
I just
don't know."
say it.
Yeah.
It's crazy, right? And then Batman hits it with him at the end.
It makes me wonder if that's where Tarantino got the idea of Jules doing the little speech before he kills his victims.
I know that. I thought about that too.
Maybe.
Yeah.
There's so many things that I don't know. There has to be meant to be funny, right? I have to bring this up. Like, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
Yeah, like that.
I love that.
has to be a joke.
I
like,
love that.
But the other thing that I think is really funny, just the Joker. Joker has a lot here, which we talked about was the gun he shoots down the bat wing with.
The
It's like
fucking
just
like 3 foot long barrel, like on the
and it
road.
works.
I like the one where he's with Vicky Vale and he shoots himself and it's bang.
Bang.
Yeah, like come on, that's
That-
that's awesome.
That was my other part that I really liked is where the guy takes him back the pictures that he took and he sees the one of Vicky Vale and then he cuts it off and he's like, "Tell her, or I'm getting a new girl."
Yeah.
Stop the press.
Who is that? Dude, he just has so many funny quotes. I wrote a couple of them down, but like when he's like, "Never rub another man's rhubarb," like that shit's so fucking funny. Or he says when he's talking to Bob about going after Batman, he's like, "We have a flying mouse to kill, and I want to clean my claws." It's just like, so good. Or fucking when the scene where they're all the mimes are outside like the city hall, and then you basically get the first reveal of Joker kind of deal, like in the public eye, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
And they shoot up, everybody at the city hall, and he goes, what does he say? He says, "Hello, Vinny, it's your Uncle Bingo. Time to pay the check." Oh yeah.
You know what? This movie made me realize something that I had never understood in my entire life is that some of my cousins used to call my dad Uncle Bingo, and I always wondered why. And when I was really young, my dad loved the Jack Nicholson Joker. Like he used to have the shirt with the Joker's face on it that says like ha 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 ha.
That's funny.
And then I didn't realize, I'm like, oh shit, did they used to call my dad Uncle Bingo
From the
because of the
movie?
Joker?
That's
And
funny.
I just last night for the first time I realized that. And that I love that scene. It does make you wonder why they didn't arrest him right there.
Yeah.
Or like
Nobody did anything.
yeah, and also Bruce Wayne gets capped in the arm and doesn't even
Yeah.
affect him. No one even mentions it.
And then I looked. That's so funny you bring that up. I don't even think his suit is messed up in the next scene.
Well, there's no blood in this movie, really. There's no like blood splatter.
No,
Because
no.
even when the Joker dies at the end, there's no puddle of blood.
No.
Well, I guess because later on when Bruce Wayne does get shot, he doesn't really get shot because he has the tray under his suit. But sorry, I kind of got lost. But what I did want to mention about that scene with the Joker in front of City Hall is when he stabs the guy in the throat with the pen.
Oh.
And
Oh, when he
he's
throws
like,
it at him?
Yeah,
The
he's
pen
like,
is my-
the pen truly is mightier than the sword.
Oh god.
And that's just that influence where it's like later on when you have the Dark Knight, and he's like, "You want to see me make this pencil disappear?" And it's like, okay, that is directly inspired by that, and you can't tell me that it's not. It's just a more gritty, dark version of it.
Since you're talking about that, I want to bring up the fact that I know we talked about it off camera, but it's in the scene. Like, everybody go watch the scene and tell me if I'm not mistaken. But the scene where after he fries the dude with the handshaker and he's talking to Bob and he gets like, he's just talking to Bob and he starts like, Bob, you know you're my number one guy. Like, and that's the only time he really does that in the movie. But I really feel like that is that's exactly who Heath Ledger's character was. Like, throughout the entire Dark Knight was that little 15-second that Jack Nicholson put out. Like, I don't know. I just think it's interesting.
Yeah, I just think that shows you how good Jack Nicholson's performance is. Like someone like Heath Ledger took 15 seconds and turned it into the entire character. Yeah.
I will say there's this interesting, almost meta thing going on in this movie with the Joker that I think again makes you just respect the character. But he's really mad that he's not getting the credit that he deserves. He's like a guy running around in a bat suit. Like even in this universe, it's ridiculous to these people that there's somebody running around in a bat suit. And then even when the cops hear about it, that's it's a detective. In the beginning, he's like, they're drinking Drano up there. That little bit where it's like a little Eckhart. Yeah,
the corrupt detective.
That part right there was really funny, where he's just kind of like, they're just drinking Drano up there. It's very noir.
I really like when they pull up to the Axis chemical plant when they're having the shootout and Commissioner Gordon's there and he sees Batman. He's like, Jesus Christ!
Yeah. He tells him, he's like, nice outfit.
It's so funny. Like, nobody could believe it.
I do think that's such a silly movie trope. The idea of when characters fall over like hand railing.
Yeah,
it's like, you're not even going fast enough.
Yeah.
Your body weight would not tip over like that. I know it's a small nitpicky gripe, but it's not just this movie. I hate that in movies. The idea of falling over the hand railing.
Whoa.
Like, hand railing is made so that will not happen.
Yeah,
like, I think it's more realistic. Like, if it was wood and you kicked him through it, you know what I mean? Like, you shattered it. But I don't want to get too caught up on that because it's a fucking superhero movie. But I hate that more than anything. And I think this shows the beta-ness of this Batman is that he doesn't have the strength to pick up the Joker.
Yeah.
Because Christian Bale's Joker would have like picked him up, put him on the ground, broke his shit. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Where is she?
I do want to get back to the Batman of it all and the Michael Keaton of it all. I just think he's a little too beta to be Batman, you know? And, like, I do think Bale and Affleck really... Okay, Affleck's Batman is the meme of, like, okay, now talk, and you're shattered into 5 different pieces. You know what I mean?
Rip your tongue out. Why aren't you speaking?
Like you said, closest to the game, like Arkham.
Exactly. Like a very violent Batman, which I know people have their gripes with the killing and stuff. And, yeah, it does kind of suck, but
who cares?
I love the effectiveness of the fighting of that Batman. And even like Christian Bale's Batman, like when he, in the first movie, when he drops the guy off the side of the building to break his legs.
Yep.
Oh, man. That stuff, I just can't picture Michael Keaton's Batman doing this.
No.
And the new one and the initial trailers that we got, the first one that we got, there's just a scene where he's like fighting. And I remember thinking this movie might be rated R because of how crazy the fighting looked.
It's like pounding that dude's face into the sidewalk.
I remember at first I was like, are they actually going to do it? This is going to be rated R? And I mean, I still think it's going to be really good, but I think that's the closest we've gotten maybe since you said like Ben Affleck, that where he's just really being violent with the punches. And I don't know.
What do you think? Where would you rank Michael Keaton as Batman?
I'd put him behind Christian Bale for sure. I'd probably put him behind
Kevin Conroy.
Yeah. I don't know if I really like him more than Ben Affleck or not. I don't know.
I do think Ben Affleck he took a lot of the what would you say, like the shrapnel of what happened with Batman versus Superman and Justice League.
Like we talked about earlier, I also think it's kind of shitty because he never got his own movie, so it's kind of hard to judge. You know what I mean?
We're coming up on like almost 10 years of not having a solo Batman movie, that's a long time. I feel like Batman is something that should be around every like 5 years or so. So I'm glad we're getting hopefully a new trilogy. Hopefully. I do know that we're most likely getting a sequel, but please give me a trilogy.
For real.
Yeah, I do think he's probably like 3rd or 4th. If we are going to, I mean, you guys have already counted Kevin Conroy, and he's so iconic, and he's probably the longest tenured Batman, if I had to guess, because he did the animated series, Mask of the Phantasm, the animated universe, which is amazing. Like Marvel cannot contend with DC's animated universe. Even the movies that they put out, like the Killing Joke movie, or like
that movie's dark.
Any of those Batman animated movies and DC animated movies, like Marvel's not even doing that, which is a disservice to their characters, because they could be pumping out way more content. But I do like that DC kind of has their hold on that. Like, whatever, you guys have the live action, but we're totally butchering you guys in the animated version.
And maybe possibly the comics, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not comic heavy, so I don't know who's doing better. I would assume it's Marvel, just because of the like aftershock of the movies, like where people are probably watching Spider-Man. It's like, okay, now I'm going to start reading Spider-Man comics. And I don't know if DC has that love, because they're totally destroying their own property right now. They don't know what to do with it.
They don't.
Which is like, speaking of Michael Keaton as Batman, he's reprising his role. We've seen these pictures. Like, Ben Affleck has gotten so mistreated as Batman that he's being completely erased from the universe, like as if it never happened, which I don't think he's deserving of that. I mean, you can dislike him all you want, but to be completely erased and then bringing back like a 75-year-old, 80-year-old Batman is ridiculous to me. Yeah, because Robert Pattinson does not fit in the main universe, which is like why I'm willing to accept that it's some other alternate universe and we have two Batmans at the same time. But you got to be kidding me that you think that Michael Keaton today would be a more effective main universe Batman than Ben Affleck.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That doesn't make any sense.
I think maybe Warner Brothers doing it the same way that Nolan's trilogy came out at a time not connected to anything, and that's why it works so well. And maybe they're trying that. Like you said, there's going to be two Batmans. Let's try to make one on its own, a trilogy that doesn't stand with anything. And then try to, I don't know what they're doing.
This makes me sad as well, is because you said you would love to see more Batman Beyond stuff, right? So with this old Batman, it's because there's going to be a straight to streaming Batgirl movie, and Michael Keaton is going to be like a mentor type role, and Michael Keaton is also going to be in the Flash movie that's coming out, which this makes zero sense. It's the Flash's first movie, and you're like, let's reset the entire universe and do Flashpoint just because we dislike Zack Snyder and his vision, which... Say what you will about Zack Snyder, the Justice League version of Zack Snyder's version is the most effective DC thing we've had since the Dark Knight movies.
No, yeah, for real. Easy. The Snyder Cut is definitely the best shit that's came out since, Dark Knight Rises.
I mean, and Batman vs. Superman is just not a good movie. And I don't know if it's so much because of how it was handled overall. You know, like me and Ro were so excited for that movie when it came out, and we walked out so disappointed.
Because I mean, like Ben Affleck is not the problem with that movie. Everything else.
Neither is Henry Cavill.
No, it's everything else.
And that's what it started. I didn't want to turn this into talking about Superman 2, but that's like my biggest gripe too, is that I like Man of Steel, and they've completely just Henry Cavill doesn't even know if he's Superman or not. Like, they just completely WB, like, they don't know what they're doing. And then, to me, when I think about Superman, it's Henry Cavill. Yeah. Like, in terms of just, every time he's in another movie, I'm like, look at Superman doing something else.
He's sick, dude.
I like him.
Cavill's fucking awesome.
I think they've done him dirty. Yeah. And like I said, I don't really like Ben Affleck too much, but to completely just not even have given him a chance and just already want to erase him seems really, just hit the reset button.
Do you mind saying why you don't like Ben Affleck as Batman?
I think I don't like the voice, like the voice change that he does. I don't like his rendition of that.
Even more than Christian Bale's gargling nonsense.
I'll be like, yeah, I don't know. That works for me, you know?
Yes,
now it's memeable, but at the time, be like, I didn't even think about it. But that's why I was like, it works.
Hey, watching The Dark Knight Rises, you never thought about how these two incoherent characters are yelling at each other for half the movie.
Sure.
I was born in the dark. Yeah, and then just grunting.
But besides, I'd have to really think about it. Besides recently, The Last Duel and Good Will Hunting, I don't think I like any of Ben Affleck's. Like, I don't like his acting.
You're not a stan.
He's not a fan, let alone a stan.
Yeah.
Whatever. I get it.
So I think that's where it comes from. I'm trying to think. Maybe there's another movie. No, just at the top of my head that I've seen. No, like those are the only two And
I don't know. From what I've learned so far is that anybody who's cast as Batman automatically gets backlash, and it's like, why did you do this? And like, okay, well, they said the same thing. Why Ben Affleck? Why Michael Keaton? I don't remember if Christian Bale got any backlash. I would assume not, because he was already a serious actor, quote unquote, before doing the Batman movies.
I can't think of any like discourse about that.
But every Batman so far, besides Christian Bale, I guess, has had the controversy of like, controversy? Did I just say that?
You
controversy of, well, why did you cast him as Batman? And it's like, I really doubt the average Joe is going to come up with a better idea of, well, this guy should be Batman.
That's what I'm saying.
It's like,
Like,
okay, well, tell me now. If it's not Pattinson, who should be
that's
Batman?
what I'm saying. Who the fuck should be Batman then? Like, I don't know. I feel like you just kind of have to pick somebody and they have to make it work. Like, pick somebody that can act.
You know, because I'm really glad that Dark Knight trilogy didn't go on with Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Levitt as either Robin or Nightwing or Batman, like taking over as Batman. That would not work for me.
it's like if everything was
Don
working
Juan,
out.
are you serious?
Yeah.
Or Don John?
That's so funny.
No thanks.
But that's like interesting about the universe at this point for DC. They could be so deep into it like Marvel is, where they've already gone past Thanos, that we could already have had a Nightwing movie, which would be sick as fuck. Batman Beyond. We could have had Robin. We could have had Damian. Could have had Batgirl.
There's so much stuff. Like the Batman we've barely touched the surface of what is possible and what you can get out of it. And I'm really excited for the future of Batman, and I'm glad we took a dive into the past.
Yeah.
And this was definitely worth watching.
Yes,
I know we did not spend as much time as we would as like, okay, this
This is a hype week.
this was like a gateway to just talking about Batman.
Yeah.
And we used 89 as a reason to talk about Batman. And I don't know if it seems like we kind of skipped over or have spent more time talking about other stuff rather than 89, but it's just so good.
It
dude.
is. Like, it
We're
really is.
stands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
You
Batman's,
can't help it.
Batman's the shit. Like, it is what it is.
But that's not taking away from the film. Like I guess that we were planning on doing all of them, which is why we're talking like this about it. But watching this yesterday for me, I did have a lot of fun watching, and I think I told you guys, I don't know how good I feel about the bat suit, but that's like, and then that's everything that I could speak ill about it though.
Stomping
Everything
around
else,
in the Nike trainers. Sick.
The bat suit might have taken out, but the fucking Batmobile,
yeah, exactly.
like maybe the coolest. It's so cool.
Hard.
Yeah, it's so fucking
Versus,
hard.
yeah, especially versus the tanky,
Yeah, like
Hummer-like
the weird
Dark Knight
I don't
one.
even know.
No thanks.
It's like the armored up Lamborghini looking thing.
It's
Like,
just
I don't know.
The animated
The animated
one
is
just keys.
That shit
animated
nice.
one looks like a really nice Rolls Royce.
So
Oh,
fucking
man. I used to
cool.
have a toy of that. It's like a little remote control car. So much fun.
That's like the one in
love
the
that.
animated. I mean, in the game, the video game.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I would love it if they need to do an Arkham Asylum movie. There's
That
so
would
much.
be so
Okay, I cannot get enough Batman. Like, as many Marvel movies as there is how many Batman movies I want.
Like,
Yeah.
is this how people feel about Marvel movies? Like, I guess. Like, I don't
No,
know.
I don't think so. I do think Batman has an even stronger cultural
Yeah.
hold than any Marvel movie could.
Because like I don't feel this way about like any other superheroes that I do about Batman. Like I even like Spider-Man a lot, but I still haven't even really kept up with all the new shit that's coming out with Tom Holland and that.
Okay, Captain America and Iron Man and all those other heroes are not as iconic as Batman.
No, they're just not.
Spider-Man is.
Yeah.
Spider-Man and I guess maybe the X-Men, I would say. Because like you have to remember that Iron Man was a B character before the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like Marvel took that risk of taking heroes that were gimmicky, you know what I mean? Like Iron Man, like, oh, this guy wears an iron suit, you know what I mean? And then making that good. And DC has always had this idea of like their heroes are all A-list, you know what I mean? And they're godlike more than these. I know it sounds bad to say, but like the Marvel characters are all kind of like freaks, you know what I mean? Like Wolverine is got the spikes coming or the claws coming out of his hand. Spider-Man's been bit by a spider. It's a much more emotional toll that comes with their power and who they are and their character. And I do think DC's got more of a mythology thing going on. You know what I mean? Like Batman is a symbol of like justice and the night and vengeance. You know what I mean? Like he's more than a hero. He's a symbol.
He is a symbol.
And so is Superman and so is Wonder Woman.
You're right.
And I do think those three are just, they're the quintessential superheroes. Like you don't need more than that. We just happen to have
Exactly.
more of it. You know what
There's
I
a
mean?
reason why even their names are escaping me right now. But like the original Superman, and there is an original Superman and an original Wonder Woman, and like when they got older, I can't remember, but like he fell off the horse and everybody like
Christopher Reeves.
yeah, like he's iconic.
And Linda Carter.
Exactly. Like I was gonna say the name from a Marvel character, but I knew it was Carter. But like
You thinking Peggy Carter?
Yeah, but they existed. Like like there is versions of those characters that are from older actors, but in the like Marvel was gimmicky. There isn't anyone that's like, oh, the original as far as back as we can go is like Blade. Like those were the movies that got made where there is somebody still around that's old that's like, oh, he was the first Blade, and now we're getting a second one. But the first Iron Man that I've seen like picture of is like I was trying to find it, but it's like literally a guy like in an aquatic suit. It's just made out of metal. And I don't know what B movie it's from. Like I was trying to find it and I couldn't find it. I've seen a picture of it before on like Tumblr, but there is no like iconic Marvel character. There was no like up until Spider-Man. But then there was a Superman and a Wonder Woman before there even was a Batman.
Yeah.
So like DC has that like hold on people, like how iconic their characters is because of what you're saying. Like their three are just like they're gods. We just happen to have more.
Yeah, dude. Marvel's heroes don't hold a cake to the DC heroes, in my opinion.
Don't even get me started about Green Lantern.
Yeah, or like, say what you will, man. Aquaman is fucking sick.
Yeah.
Like, I do love the movie, but I'm talking about the character.
No,
himself.
Aquaman is so fucking cool.
Dude, come on. And like even things like the Boys, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not mimicking Marvel.
No.
It's mimicking the
DC,
Justice
yeah,
League.
exactly.
Because those are the Earth's heroes, you know what I mean? And like
The protectors of the realm, you know what I mean? Like that kind of shit.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man. I now that we've done a superhero movie and we're gonna do one next week, I would like to see what our first Marvel movie would be. Like if we could come together and agree on which one is worthy of that sounds funny, but which one is worthy of us talking? Yeah. Which one we would, as a consensus, agree? Like, no, this is worth talking about.
And I think there's a big thing about that because you said, Nate, it's very hard for you to feel this way about any of the other characters.
Yeah, I just don't have the same connection with any of them that I do with like Batman and stuff. I don't know.
I mean, the Batman logo is as iconic as the Coca-Cola logo or the Visa card logo.
Yeah, it's
or
like
McDonald's.
Like I
you know
always
what
think,
mean?
like whenever I'd go to Six Flags, I'd always buy a little cape because they would sell capes, right? And I would always just get a Batman cape.
Yep.
Okay, have
I
you
have
ever
like
been
three
on
of
the
them.
Batman ride?
Yeah, I have.
It's a roller coaster.
It's
now.
a roller coaster. It's
Well, everything at Six Flags.
have
is a
you ever
roller
been
coaster, right?
to? You've been to Knott's, right?
No, never heard of it. What is that?
Okay, it's actually a theme park in Buena Park, California, and no, but
Actually, the
it's,
first theme park in California.
it's really never mind. I'm not even gonna get into it. It's like Silver Bullet.
Okay.
it's like that.
I like
yeah, yeah. It's cool.
You know, Batman '89 would make a nice dark ride.
Yeah,
like
it
a
would.
like a Pinocchio or Peter Pan style ride. Like we would. Dude.
Warner Brothers.
like
Yeah, Warner Brothers.
like the fucking Harry Potter ride.
you
but
open a-
Batman? That could be great
Yes,
too.
exactly.
That'd be really cool.
You know, it's one of my lifelong dreams to open and be in charge of the Warner Brothers theme park.
We already talked about it. Dune.
Dune, The Shining, The Exorcist, like
Batman.
a Batman section.
Well, help you fix your shit.
Hire me. I could be what Spielberg was to Universal Studios Park for Warner Brothers. I'm just saying. just saying. What do you think? You guys want to wrap this up?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, we could probably keep going.
I mean,
but
yeah.
I want to think about
We've
some
gotten so far off topic.
final thoughts on the movie just to kind of top off.
We should, yeah. Let's
Well,
end it
we
with. You
started.
do want to end it with the final thought about the movie?
Yeah, I was trying to think about like how you want. Do you guys have anything like final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I just want like I said a little bit earlier, like I hadn't seen this movie in a very long time, but I ended up liking it even more than I remember liking it. I think that this really, like we talked about, like this is such a fun movie, and it's such a good use of a villain in a movie too. Like I don't know, like just to go back after not seeing this for so long and having seen so many other Batman movies up until this, like. It's just almost good to go back to the roots. Like this feels like where it all started, and it really gets me hyped for next week to go see the new Batman.
Dude, we're seeing that twice before we record.
I know,
We're going
Friday
night, Saturday
fucking
morning.
go,
Yeah.
dude. I'm so excited.
IMAX one day, Dolby another. We're well prepared to talk about this. I know we joked before about doing like a month long
It's starting.
Batman podcast. Yeah. All right, Bat fans, we have Batmania right now.
Bat fever.
My final thoughts are that I think this is the most artistic, expressionist version of Batman, which I greatly appreciate. You could feel the love for the character, and the iconography of the Batman world. I think of all the Batmans, this is a love letter to Batman, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I like that. You guys said a lot of good closing thoughts. I would just say, iconic wise, and I seen the Batwing and the moon. That's how I was like, this is cinema. And I'll leave it at that.
All right,
Hell
guys.
yeah.
So, if you have not seen this movie, you can watch it on Hulu or you can rent it on Prime. I highly suggest seeing this before you see the new Batman. If you're gonna, I suggest watching all the Batman movies if you can and you have the time to before. So we're gonna end it here. Come back next week when we do the Batman. I have a feeling it might be the most excited the three of us have been as a collective.
I got tingles right now, bro.
You have bat tingles?
I got bat tingles. My bat senses.
So if you've made it this far and you're listening on YouTube, like and subscribe, comment and share. You know all of the shilling that we need to do. Message us on Instagram, the Grand Cinema Hotel. Tell us how excited you are for Batman. Tell us if we got it wrong. Tell us if we got it right. What's your favorite rendition of Batman? And yeah, man, I hope all of you go see the next one.
See y'all at the
And that
theaters.
you're all yeah, I better see some of you there.
Yeah, you better be there.
Because it's packed, so.
If you don't have tickets now, you're not going, buddy.
Yeah, if you don't have tickets right now, you're not going to see it this weekend.
No, not at
so,
all.
yeah, man, I hope all of you get a chance to see it, and you stay safe while you're doing it, and you have a chance to listen to the pod next week because we're fucking hyped.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean that's all we got today,
Yep.
right?
The fact that we're going to watch it twice means we're probably going to break it down pretty.
You would probably be incoherent rambling like all of these are, but
So I would highly recommend you guys watch.
all right, guys. Thanks for checking in. We're checking out Batman '89. I give it 4 out of 5.
I'd type up the 4 too.
4 out of 5.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a good one.
Cool. All right, guys. Bye. Love you.
Peace out, y'all.
Bye.